Oh, welcome to another Visions of Divine Media video. What you saw there in the red was my sculpt. It's a 3D sculpt that I did in Blender, and I'm still in Blender and I'm using grease pencil, and that sculpt was what I sketched over. Now I'm just drawing each limb and drawing each hair individually so I can easily overlap them, and when I'm animating I can move it as a single object if I have a separate grease pencil object, like for the eyes for example. I probably don't need a grease pencil object for both eyes, but I can definitely have like a pupil and one eye as a grease pencil object. Now I think I made another one there for the head grease pencil object, and I can draw the nose and the lips and mouth, teeth, everything in there. I have that separate piece, that's the dark area for the mouth, so I can use it as a mask. And you'll see there I'm adding a mask for a head for a couple things there. And that's really important. You want to make sure you're masking correctly so that some of your drawings don't make it outside of the head or don't make it outside of the mouth. And you can see I'm kind of sculpting there my drawings. I want things to be a little bit smoother. I use the smooth operation a lot when I'm sculpting my drawing because I don't have a very even hand. I'm using a tablet, but it's still just like a little bit jittery. And you can see my eyes are a little bit off there. I gotta fix the point of pivot there a little bit, the pivot point. You can see I'm fixing the lips, okay, because the lips, you want to be able to suture those vertices in. They're just vertices that need to be sutured in together so that the lips, when you're animating it, you don't have any gaps in there. And you got to be careful when you start drawing an object where you start with your pencil, because you don't want to start on a part where you're going to be animating that part a lot, because you might have those seams break or something. And I notice that happens when I'm smoothing the lines. They seem to break, and then I have to suture them back in together. And here you can see that I'm changing the keyframe to 2 now, and I've copied over what I had from edit mode. In edit mode, I copied it over to the next frame or couple frames over. I chose to draw in the 90-degree angle first for my body. Just for me, it just makes it easier mentally. I'm able to wrap my head around that rather than go just right straight ahead to the next angle. And I'm drawing 7 angles in. I think it's standard to have like an 8-quarter turn, so to have each quarter as you turn. So I'm just like, just smoothing things out here. Now I'm thinking, how am I gonna have an armhole as well? I'm starting to think. It's like I'm just straightening out that there. Where does the front side of the shirt overlap? And where's the armhole gonna go for when I draw the armhole in? So there you go. And I do that for the leg hole as well. And then into that next keyframe on keyframe 4. So we're gonna have a full body turn and have the arms still situated in those black areas, as if, to give that illusion that the arm is coming out of the hole, when really it's just a drawing sitting on top, because this is 2D now. It takes a lot of wrapping your head around going from 3D to 2D, because you still want to kind of rotate around in 3D view. I had to keep pressing the number 1 button to get back into the front view as I rotate. And as you can see, I'm in edit mode here, and I'm doing the same for the arms, and I'll have to do the same for the legs. We need an angle for each drawing, and you want to try to keep the volume the same. That's one thing looking at my character at the end. Now that it's finished, I'm thinking I wish I had more volume on some of the angles. It looks like the hands kind of shrunk, or it looks like the arms got skinnier. And I just wish that, for next time, that's what I'll do differently. Just try to keep that volume. That's what really good animators do. And I'm thankful for Blender that I don't have to draw every single frame for my animations, because of this amazing grease pencil tool and the ability from what you're going to see moving forward as I develop the character with bones and everything, and how you can animate these grease pencils. It's really amazing. So there I am, and I'm just trying to make sure the height of the fingers are the same. And then I'm moving on to the legs. So I'm just setting up keyframes as I did before, and as you can see, there's a bunch of keyframes and drawing them. The 90-degree foot is interesting, because how am I going to show the front of the foot kind of rotating up forward, or how's that foot gonna show rotating? And you see more as you see there's bones later. And this is very interesting work to do when trying to wrap your mind around it as well, because you're just used to grabbing a 3D model that you sculpted and rotating it, said and done, but now you got to picture how that would look in that angle and then try to draw it. So here I'm just renaming some of the materials that I'm using to make sure that it's easily organized and I can make sense of it when I'm going to grab one of them. And just thickening up, broadening up the lines and adding some fill for the nose. You see how I came around the top there? I gave it a little space over top of the top of the lines because the nose will move around and I want it to blend in with the rest of the head. And I want it to always sit on top, so I make sure it's in the right place in the layers for the drawing. And I'm just sculpting the mouth in a different frame here. You see I'm in keyframe 1 now. I'm changing the phenome, they call it, or phenome of the mouth, so that it has a different shape, because it's gonna have a different verb. When you're speaking, your mouth changes shape. So Google search phenomes, Pheonomes, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. It's a big part of animation, of course, to have the changes in your mouth expressions and your lip expressions, to have the o, oo, ah, e, ah, So I should really have more keyframes than you're gonna see me making here. But in setting up this character, I figured I can always add some more later, and just for the sake of keeping this character shorter in the development stage, shorter amount of time to develop, I just chose to do a few, and you'll see me scrub through them all here, I think, here. And so I'm giving it kind of a O, and it just you can do it with your own mouth in a mirror if you really want to get it right, or you can just Google some references of what the different mouth shapes look like and then add some flavor to that. Don't make it exactly like what you see in the reference. Your character has life, so think about the type of life that your character has. How are they driven as a character? What kind of expression would they give to that O or ah mouth movement? So maybe they have a big tongue or something and it's always getting in the way. Then you want to think of that when you're making the mouth shapes. So there we go. The scrub through is so fast, so sped up, but you get the idea. Now I'm making eyelids, and these eyelids are going to open and close and stay over top of the eye. So in the layers panel there on the right, you can see that the eyelid is above the eyes, eye left and right. It looks like I made a layer for each eye, really, and then there's a grease pencil object for the eyes, and the pupils are in the layers there too. The pupils should actually be on top of the eye. And I added some expression lines in there as well. You can see I'm just smoothing things up. It's okay to spend time smoothing your lines out because you want your character to look good, but you have to remember then to do that for every angle that you draw as well, so that they all match. You don't have some rough looking drawings on frame 4 and then very smooth on frame 5, because when you go to do your head turn later, you're going to see those anomalies and it's going to perturb the eye of the viewer. You don't want that. There we go with the expression lines, clean it a little bit. And so what I did there is, I have another grease pencil object called head angles, and that's because we need another head for the angles phenome, because I noticed so far in Blender you can just have one time offset modifier for a grease pencil object, not two. And so to be able to have different keyframes animating using a time set offset modifier, we need to have two different grease pencil objects. So the head angles and then the front head. The front head is for the phenome changes. So that time offset modifier thinks it's changing every line in that front head, but really there's only keys set on the mouth. Whereas with the Angle's head, of course, there's keys set for the eyeballs, changing positions and everything. And so yeah, you just want to make sure when you flip into the side view maybe that you look at where the objects are in alignment with 3D space. The further out the let's say pupils go, the more of a 3D look it's going to get when you kind of pan around the character a little with the camera. And so if you pan around too much, it's going to look like the pupils are not in the eyeball, that they're outside in 3D space, and then you'll start to see the edge on them, which you don't want. But it's a nice effect when it has a 3D look. So here we go with the Angle's head, what I was saying. Now it's going to need a different shape. And I have the ghosting turned off there, that you see that green and purple color. It helps to have that on. I probably, oh there you go, you have it with the nose, the purple. You should probably always have that on. I seem to like it, but some people say they're distracted by it. See how I'm giving the nose a little bit of a turn? But you can always change that later as you're animating, or you don't have to do that turn. And then this took some figuring out for me too. I'm just used to a 3D model, so it's strange to think now, like, how's the nose stick out from the side of the face when looking from this angle? Lots of cleaning up, messing around that I was doing there. But then I can use it by copying it and going to a different frame and just flipping it around. And so you can see there, you can rotate it. Doesn't look too bad. You think it looks terrible when you're doing it, but then when you go through the keyframes and you go through them fairly fast, you're gonna notice that it's fine. So then yeah, I was just making sure that the masking is right here. For if I move the nose out, I actually don't want a mask for the nose, a head mask, because what if I have to go on a side angle? I want the nose to move out the side of the head. I don't want it to only move inside the head, the dimensions of the head. I think I'm just cleaning up here again, lots of cleaning up. So definitely do that too, because it's just gonna make it look better. You can use the sculpt brush to move the lines out. And I just love the sculpt brush. If Grease Pencil didn't have a sculpt brush, I think it would be just sad and painful. I probably wouldn't be able to 2D animate without that sculpt brush. Maybe with years of practice. It shows how impressive real 2D animators are that draw each frame. It's incredible. And then the teeth are sitting on top of the lips. So yeah, there was some playing around I had to do. The way that you draw the lips matters. You can kind of loop around and keep the lips separate from the inside of the mouth, or you can do one big piece on top and then have that darker piece in front. But it depends what you're working on. But you can see there how I looped around and then I decided to make the lips their own drawing. So instead of one piece, because that's what it's going to take for me to get the masking right on this. But it depends how many line drawings, how many layers you have for what you're working on, for what you're trying to draw. It's really hit and miss. You got to just kind of play with things and figure it out. But that's what makes it fun too. If everything was a process, then you just get bored. See how I move the mouth out? Because it's masked for the head, I'm able to just move all of those lines because they all have that head mask. And then none of them move outside of the head, which is nice for the Angle's head. I didn't do that for the front head because it's not likely that in the very front view I'm going to move the mouth to that extreme. And so you can see I'm putting the keyframes, positioning the mouth. Everything, the expressions lines, everything. Those little expression lines on the Angle's head, I did them all as one just to save time. And it depends on how detailed your animation is going to be. You could have a lot of expression lines and have them each on their own layer and having them animate per keyframe. So yeah, just moving the hair. Really, you could spend more time sculpting the hair too, or you could have more detailed hair and spend more time on that, and it would make it look more interesting. See how I rotated there, and that gave it the illusion without having to redraw it. So if I sped through those keyframes, it would probably look fine. And you can try stuff. Hopefully it looks fine. It's not painful. Some people probably look at this and be like, oh, it's gonna take so long. But as you get working on it, you know, if you enjoy it, then do it. If you don't enjoy it, then find a way to enjoy it. Use a different process. There's so many ways of doing things in Blender and in using grease pencil. But in this video, I just wanted to show you how I did it. See the pivot object, or the pivot around the eyes here. You got to be careful when you're gonna animate them later, how you're gonna rotate them, where their point of pivot is gonna be. And see how I'm moving the eye in there, so you do have some shape changing that you need to do, just a little bit of editing. You can do it in edit mode if you want to, use the sculpt brush. And you got to be careful then once you have that missed shape, if you're in a keyframe that's on the opposite side of the face. That's what I'm doing here. I'm making sure that the eyes were flipped, so I just pressed rotate in the y-axis 180 degrees. Remembering to copy from the previous frame that I can copy from, and then go into the keyframe that I want to paste it in, and then press paste. See that orientation of the objects for the eyes are way off, and it took me forever to notice that. Okay, and then clean it up a little. Yeah, making it a bit more skinny. And you got to remember to do that on the far angle too. So you have the 45-degree angle, the 90-degree angle, 135-degree angle, 180-degree angle, 215-degree angle, and then the 270-degree angle, and then the 325-degree angle before you're then right back to your start, which is 0 and 360 would be the same. I probably got that wrong. Let's not get into math, which is why drivers scare me. And I have to use drivers in developing this character later with the bones and the drivers. And so I was really scrubbing YouTube for that stuff. How do they think of math calculations? How do math people do it? There, yeah. It's getting there. It's coming along, eh? How much more can I possibly draw? And imagine this is sped up and this is taking like almost 20 minutes. So don't pressure yourself to go too fast. Try to get it right, or especially if it's your first time, try to have fun at it. So there I am, repositioning things, moving things front to back, back to front. Where should they be so that they don't stick out too far but don't poke through the body? And then I noticed when I was animating later that, you know, sometimes you do have that, the one elbow part of the arm or the top part of the arm will break through the shirt or something, and then it's terrible and it's a painful part of animating. So you want to get this part right so that they're not too close to each other, so that any movement in the y-axis from one bone might result in a unfavorable kind of a keyframe for poking through where you don't want it to poke through. See how I had to have the two different sides of the hair as at least different line drawings in the layers, so that I can position them a little bit and really go ahead and make it its own object if you need to make it stand in a different y-axis setting, so then they're not overlapping each other. I think I had to go back and fix that later to make sure that was right. And then I'm just renaming things because I messed up on the naming a little bit, it looks like. And you're gonna want to make sure the naming is correct later, like left versus right. When you're doing the bones, it's important. The drawing is basically your starting position for getting the bones right, so you want to make sure that they're right. And I'm squaring off the fingers a little bit there. And then notice how that fill color is poking through. you could do a line and fill layer just together, and that would probably save you time. I don't know why I did them separate, and I made a bit of a mess there. Maybe on the next character I won't do that. And the great part is I can use my rig and lattices and everything that you're going to see later. I can use them on a different character. I just change the shape of them maybe a bit and add a bit of a different vertex groups, which you'll see what I mean. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go, coming along.